cultural one, I'll take Japan, and we were worried exactly in the same way as now we are worried about India and China. We really thought the Japanese would take over everything. You just have to go back to the 80s and read the literature, and you'll find that there's a palpable fear of that kind. Well, the Japanese are still terribly good at manufactures. It fits into their culture of tender, loving care. Then they had shoddy products in the 30s, but they also had an artisan culture of perfectionism. And really, when you see the traditional art and so on, it's really beautiful. Even the way they do the tea ceremony and the way they arrange their flower. So there is a certain equilibrium in their life which translates into, into this artisan culture. So they have tender, loving care. They produce beautiful products. They take care of consumers. There's no question of taking people to court. I sold you a shoddy product. Well, it's your problem now. So if you can take me to court, I can file a countersuit. This is our way. This is not their way. So there you see a very dramatic ability to compete, to do very well in manufacturers. And despite all the upheavals in the last 15 years on macroeconomics and so on, they've retained that advantage. And I remember my good friend Larry Summers, who was U.S. Secretary of the Treasury and then president at Harvard. I remember his once saying in the days when we were out to, we were just very tense about Japan, and he said very gleefully once, I saw read in the Financial Times, that the last time that the Japanese produced anything interesting was a Sony Walkman. Next to it, Financial Times produced another story saying Honda had just invented a fantastic engine which cut down CO2 emissions dramatically. And that was enough of a commentary on poor Larry. So the Japanese are very good at that. But where are they not good at? And this is the lack of, the first I'm talking about lack of flatness. They have a little, an edge on us. In manufacturers and innovation of that kind, and Detroit still feels that. But they're completely at the other end, where we have huge advantages, is where you need rapid response. And because of the IT sector, wherever you have to have, and finance and so on, either you responded within a few hours or certainly a few days, people are going to travel on to other suppliers. And the Japanese are still sorting it out in their mind and so on and so forth. They can't do it. They simply can't do it. It's like trying to run a 33 RPM record on a 78 speed. It simply is not possible. So 15 years have passed and they could not do their finance. And they could not do, as a result, macroeconomics. They were in a deep slump. But now they've opened up to getting foreign expertise. So that was the cultural example. Now we take the political example, and that's very clear in contrasting India with China, for example. India is a robust, noisy democracy, right? V.S. Naipaul, the great, author, he called it a multitude of mutinies, meaning each one is a law unto himself, just like Americans are. That is very noisy democracy. So we have IT sector taking off in a big way because there's no, in a democratic setup, you can have as much software. I mean, there's no censorship and so on and so forth. But you take China, they can't do it. They've got hardware. They do very good hardware because that's manufacturers. But they can't do software because software means samizdat, the ability to undercut the political system. So they haven't developed software. They're way behind on that. And that in turn, of course, has repercussions for China's growth and so on and so forth, because a lot of modern growth is IT dependent, or shooting out from IT. But there again you have clear contrast, right? So Tom actually, I don't want to appear immodest, but Tom took an idea which I'd put out in the New Republic almost 13 years ago, calling it was a review article, a long one, and the question was a new epoch was the question mark. And there I said today, competition has gotten quite fierce. Everybody talks about it. I have never met a CEO who is not worried about somebody stealing up on him or her from somewhere, but it is not necessarily India or China. It may be Poland, it may be Brazil, it may be even France or Germany, and so on. So I think what has happened is that today multinationals slosh around everywhere. People have access to similar textbooks and so on. Interest rates, because of the flows of funds, have become closer to one another across the world. Given all of that, I didn't use the word flatness. I said competition is now more intense. I call it kaleidoscopic, in the sense that today I have an advantage, like I'm Boeing, and I have advantage over Airbus. But tomorrow Airbus may get advantage over me. We're sort of neck to neck, close, to take one example, which is, and you know, Boeing has gained advantage over Airbus because Airbus came up with this crazy idea of 380, which is what, a gigantic ship flying Queen Mary or Queen Elizabeth going through the sky. Can you imagine two of those landing at Rome Airport? I mean, you know, already right now, you've got to wait for 4 hours to clear the customs. I mean, if 380s land at Rome Airport, you'll be eating pizzas in the queue for 2 days running before you get into Rome. And so on. So I think the key today is volatility. That is really, and I think Tom misses that out. Tom is thinking of, we've lost comparative advantage, that doesn't mean anything. No, we haven't done that. I mean, there are reasons why the people coming in, I mean, the analogy is not Russell Crowe in The Gladiator, but it's more like Braveheart. There are people coming in from all kinds of, you know, Mel Gibson when he's on the ropes. I mean, he's collecting all the different clans and so on. But think of, you know, clans which are, the enemy is getting the clans, you see. So there are all kinds of people from different directions coming in, and we really have to be on our toes all the time, and that has major repercussions about the way we gain from trade and the way we have to cope with its consequences. And I think that is really the important aspect of globalization, which I'm worried about, that there is volatility. If there's volatility, labor has to worry, because our traditional conception was once you got a job, you kind of got it for life, hopefully, right? I mean, many people did for long tenures. I mean, you know, I remember in Cambridge, England, when we were all graduating, I had no interest in an English job, but all my English friends, the first question they asked, you know, to ICI and, you know, all the big firms that came to Harvard, what's your pension plan like?